Welcome back, kids. In the history of the NHL, only 20 players have scored 60 or more goals in a season. The names are pretty good. Guys like Gretzky, Hull, Lemieux, Solani, Esposito, Bossy, you know, Ovechkin, Jagger, Bure.
Average players.
Yeah, just the regular old guy, Lafleur, whatever. And Dennis Maruk of the Washington Capitals. He scored 50 the year before and joined the elite club, scoring 60. That's right, 60 in 81-82 as a 26-year-old.
The book about said Mr. Maruk, who's in studio now, is generating a lot of buzz. Kenny Reid, another phenomenal job on. Dare I say author Ken Reid?
No.
James, I call him James Patterson.
Dude who wrote a book.
Dude, I could do that.
Dude who wrote down what Dennis told me.
He did a great job.
Dennis Maruk, the unforgettable story of hockey's forgotten 60-goal man, is what we're here to talk about. Dennis, welcome to the show.
Well,
Kenny's been here forever. Whatever.
Yeah, I know.
We know.
The star. But
Good to see you.
First time. My pleasure.
So he calls you, I want to do a book. You go, who the hell are you? Like, how does this marriage happen initially?
We met. I was another fellow, first of all, that I met, and we start telling him stories, and he goes, "You should write a book." I go, "No." And then about a few months later, he goes, called me again. He says, "You got to meet this guy, Ken Reid." And I go, I don't know Ken Reid. So
He gets that a lot.
Thanks for watching,
you know,
Dennis.
and then, and all of a sudden we met for lunch, and I figured it'd be an hour lunch. It was 5.5 hours.
Oh, wow.
Telling stories, and then he said, "This is how I'd like it to be done. Let's do it."
So what hooked you?
The stories outside of hockey. I didn't want to write a book about goals. But Dennis is a guy who scored 60 goals, who is so much more than a 60-goal scorer. And I just think it's amazing that Dennis is in this exclusive club. He'll be the first to admit when it comes to trivia time. They get around 1920 and they still haven't named Dennis. And just what he went through off the ice. I mean, he scored 60 goals in 81-82. He's at the White House with President Reagan. And 15 years later, he's in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico on a service rig. Going, what? How did this happen?
Right.
How'd this happen? Then he's
Ken.
delivering furniture to Goldie Hawn and going, "Hey, I scored 60 goals a few years ago."
The goal behind.
Oh, she said I was her hockey love.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Sorry, Sid.
Yeah, so I was her hockey
She
love.
told me the same thing.
Yeah, I was sitting there, coming to the store, and I was where I was working. She goes, I'd like to buy something for Kurt. And I says, what do you know? We're looking at some kind of chandelier. But wait a minute here. Is there anywhere I can go have a cigarette? And so she said, look, we're outside, and went outside, and we got talking, and that was cool. Yeah, she's
What
pretty
other
good.
celebrities did you run into?
Oh, geez. I lived in Aspen, so I ran into a lot of, let's see, Kurt Russell, Goalie, musicians, Neil Young, John Oates.
Hall & Oates, John Oates?
John Oates.
Only
I worked
former 60
for him.
goal
I
scorer
worked
I know
for
that
him.
worked for John Oates.
I worked for him.
Was he out of touch?
Joe,
Was he a nice guy?
real nice guy. A little shorter.
a bad
You know what?
song
I was a
reference.
giant. Little guy. Oh, yeah? I was the first time I felt like a giant.
He was a man eater.
Going around, little guy. I go, are you
Whoa.
really? No, he's not very tall. So, yeah, it was kind of a lot of fun. I met a lot of interesting people in Aspen. Yeah.
So I'm sure there's younger viewers watching this who are intrigued with the story, but obviously don't know a lot about you. How would you describe you as a player back in the day?
Oh, I would say I was a pretty good goal scorer, playmaker. A lot of people think I'm a goal scorer, but I had a lot more assists. So I really enjoyed making plays, and I think I had a playmaker and kind of a gritty player. I didn't take any abuse from anybody. They cross-checked me. I cross-checked them
Back
back.
then, gritty players could score 60 goals,
Yeah,
right?
well, yeah, you had to be around the net and had to pay the price. But I was just a aggressive, small player that was always told I was too small, and I just had to keep showing him every game, right to the last one, that nobody was going to take my job, and I want to stay in the NHL.
Not only were you a 60-goal scorer, but Kenny, best mustache in the game, maybe the game's history.
Right.
Have to scrap it out with Lanny. I mean,
Oh, yeah, Lanny.
Lanny's pretty good, yeah.
Randall's a fan of that duster.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, Lanny's pretty good. But I grew at a young age, and then got away from it a little bit, and then I watched this baseball clip of this relief pitcher. He was going nuts around the mound with Kansas City Royal, Al Habrowski.
Yeah.
And he had the foo, and I said, I got to do that. I'm Ukrainian.
Yeah.
I said, I got to keep that. And that's how I kind of go out.
But you had it in London in junior.
yeah,
like you had the
sure.
big.
But I got rid of it. I had a beard.
Yeah.
I had all that, and I said, no, I'm going to stick to the thick foo.
Could you grow a foo right now, Sid?
in a minute.
I have one on my lower back right now. It's completely unintentional, but it looks very Dennis Maruk.
It was my tough luck, mean luck. You know. Yeah.
So you never got a Steinbrenner, and no one came to you and said, "Young man, this is in the 1980s. You got to shave that thing off," or even the 1970s.
No. During our time, no.
No one cared. Yeah.
No, just do what you want.
So you, I mean, the 60 goals, we reference it. It's a big part of your career. Few people have done it.
Right.
Your story is so layered in terms of where your hockey career went, in terms of what happened to you after the game.
Right.
When you scored 60 goals, where did you envision your career 10 years later? Because 10 years later, you were out of the league. Well,
I think at that time we were told that there was going to be a lot of doors open for us, and when I get retired, there's very little doors. So now what do you do? And I didn't really prepare myself for a post-career. And I think because of that time, we thought things were going to happen for us. I didn't get involved with hockey right away. A lot of guys do. They just stay, get right with other coach or a scout or whatever that. I wanted to get away from it a little bit, and I struggled for many, many years.
Is that part of the reason why you wanted to do this, to tell the other side of the story too? That there is, and even the guys who make millions these days struggle to find something after the game. Was that part of the process that made it fun, or did you want to tell that story?
Well, I think the part of it is they make millions and we made thousands.
Yeah.
And so we didn't have a lot of money saved away. You had children, their schooling and everything. So you really didn't have a lot of extra money. So now you had to figure out, what to do and get a job. And I think today they have millions to prepare themselves. They've got time to figure out, and I think it's very important. Yes, money will run out, but to get involved with something and do it while they're playing.
Right.
I think Shara was doing something regarding being real estate.
Yeah.
I think that's great. I think that's where he was doing that, doing some
getting prepared.
getting prepared for it, and I think that's awesome. Yeah.
When you, Kenny, you've obviously spoken to Dennis a lot. We just had the pleasure of meeting now, but you know him better than us. In terms of his post-hockey career, in terms of all the conversations and stories you've had between the two of you, what struck you the most about Dennis's journey?
Anxiety, depression. That's something we could both relate to. I think that's when we kind of bonded, and we came upon getting deep into the stories. Dennis has gone through some tough times. I don't talk about it much publicly, but I've gone through some tough times. So we bonded over that. Once Dennis kind of hinted that he had his struggles and I hinted that I had mine, we could talk about that. We found that we could talk to each other. So I think that brought the book beyond 60 goals and, hey, I was a deckhand, and, hey, I delivered the furniture to Goldie Hawn. And I didn't expect the book to go to a dark place. When I met Dennis for the first time, all I knew was what I knew about him from my hockey cards. Sniper, sweet duster, but so much more.
Right.
Like a lot of players, like Dennis said, struggled. And Dennis was extremely open and honest in this book, and that's something I truly admired, because we talk about the great stuff, and we talk about the bad stuff. We talk about the in-between stuff. And I mean, it's a hockey book, but it's not a hockey book. It's a story about a guy who always knew what he wanted to do. You correct me if I'm wrong, Dennis. And then that thing was taken away from him at around the age of 34. And then maybe, a 15, 20-year struggle to find what you're supposed to do again.
Exactly. You're so right.
And back then, to deal with anxiety and to deal with the issues of 2017, where the conversation is so prevalent, back then that was not the conversation, was it?
No,
like if you're
no.
dealing with something around that time, it's a very different situation.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of players that are going through a lot of time, depression and anxiety during that time because of the post career. What are you doing, and what's going to happen? And I think that just it got to a point where I went from one job to another, and things just weren't. I couldn't find anything that I really wanted. I coached kids hockey. I loved it,
right.
And I still do. So that's what I give it back to them. But that's probably been the best thing I've done since even when I was playing, I coached kids hockey and all that. So, it's just kind of a situation where I just didn't know what to do. And I got my car in Aspen, and I was driving to Vegas, and during that whole time, I was calling my kids and friends and saying, "I love you, goodbye," and and I was, had a few too many, and got a little tired. Got to Utah, pulled over the side of the road, and passed out. And the sunshine woke me up. I got out of the car, walked 5 feet, and I just froze. There was the cliff, the Grand Canyon.
Wow.
Grand Canyon.
Yeah, the canyon.
It's a bit of a cliff,
yeah, a bit of a cliff.
A bit of a cliff.
And I just froze, and I got my car, drove back home, went back to Aspen. I had a job, showered up, and knocked on the door, and police says, it was a policeman. He goes, "You okay?" I go, "Are you Dennis Maruk?" I says, "Yeah." He says, "You okay?" I said, "I'm fine. I'm getting ready to go to work." And he says, "Yeah, a lot of people are worried about you." I says, "Okay, yeah, I understand." So I owe a lot to my daughter, Sarah, who's really became a close friend during that whole process. Every day, contact, and it took a long time to understand and the respect of love and what you have and what you could have lost. It was that close, 5 feet.
It's almost.
The car could have went right over. Wow. That would have been. I just lucky.
You're not here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Discovery, right?
Yeah.
Like, and you
it's
discover.
part of. That's what we were saying about the depression and everything. I got to a point that I can't do it anymore.
That's where the journey towards now, I think, began when you looked over that cliff.
Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah.
we've had guys on here talk about the books. Mm-hmm. When you're done with that, you happy with what came out and ends up on those pages?
Oh, Ken did an awesome job. We worked together, and that's why I call him James Patterson. I love James Patterson books. He's my favorite author, so now I got a new favorite author.
More Dr. Seuss.
But regarding the book, is when I said this is the way I want it done. I'm 60 years old, 60 goals and 60 chapters, just like James Patterson. His books are all short chapters. Right. I don't want this 30, 40 pages of the first chapter. Right. Quick, short stories, but kind of twist and twirl, so people want to read to the next one. And so far, a lot of the reviews I've got have been outstanding, great, nice job. I'm waiting for a negative one, and nobody's come across with that, so it's been real good. Dennis. So my son read it first, and I figured he'd be the best critic, and he says, "Dad, it was great."
But you made me change the ending.
Yeah, we had to change the ending. Yeah,
because Dennis had quadruple bypass a year ago, so we had to change the ending.
Yeah, we had to change the ending.
We might have to add on to it when a number goes up to the rafters in London, because I think
that'd
we
be
should
nice.
get that done.
Thank you.
I think we should
Come on, Knights.
Yeah.
Let's go, Knights.
We got a few connections out there.
Great players, I understand, but come on.
But it was pretty good.
That's awesome.
It's a pleasure to have you both. Yeah. And with the holidays around the corner, it doesn't matter if you have a hockey fan of any vintage really in the family. This is a terrific read again. Dennis Maruk, thank you for coming in. Kenny, you will be an eternal friend of the show.
Thanks, guys.
And nice of you to dress up once in a while. Coming in a real suit.
That's nice.
Instead of what you usually do.
Tim was saying, though, if before we went on, if somebody, one of your viewers, one of the Tim and citizens, could maybe, what's it called, Photoshop Dennis's mustache on you before the end of the show, I think that'd be great.
I think between now and 6:30 Eastern, that will happen.
That will definitely.
I think that's safe to say.
Thanks, boys.
Gentlemen, thanks for coming in.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Much appreciated.